Straight up. Watching Christians United Broadcasting Network. CUBN, where we want to see you be encouraged in Jesus' name. Glory to God. Let's get into our Way Happy Bible study. This is an exciting one because we are talking about the sixth seal. Now, we are in our study of Revelation, and we got last time to chapter 6, about verse 4 or 5, but I want to start again at chapter 6, verse 1, and we're going to lay this out all in one segment here when we're looking at the sixth seal, okay? And actually all the seals from 1 through 6 right here together. This is very important to understand because the seals open and then they have progressive effects. They are horsemen. And then you have the ultimate fulfilling of the seal in the second half. Boom, 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 like that. I'll give you an example. Let's go into chapter 6 in verse 1. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder. So as the seals open, you're hearing thunder. One of the four beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse. Now Jesus comes on a white horse, but this is a counterfeit that we're talking about right here in this seal. He that sat on him had a bow, but he has no arrows. So he is conquering through peace and diplomacy and deception and treachery. And a crown was given unto him. Now the crown was given to the Antichrist of prophecy, 3:13:13, when he was elected by conclave. Pope Francis, he is the Antichrist of prophecy. He is the only man on the entire planet that meets every single biblical criteria. He's the one. Now, a crown was given unto him. He got his crown, 3:13:13. And he went forth conquering and to conquer. So you have your first seal opened, and then the Antichrist receives his crown, and he goes forth, putting all the pieces of the fractured Catholic Church back together again, like Humpty Dumpty. So he's been working since 2013, like the Energizer Bunny, to bring all of the false religion of the world back together into one global world religion. Okay? And as we reach the fulfillment in the second half, you will have a satanically empowered Antichrist. He's the fulfillment. And then you will have, you have the sixth seal was opened in March 2013. He goes forth conquering and to conquer after he gets his crown. Then, boom, you have the ultimate fulfillment in the second half after we go with a satanically empowered son of perdition, Antichrist, snake in a dress. Okay? And then the second seal. I'll explain this. When the second seal opened in 2014, you had peace taken from the earth. And at that time, there were the effects of that seal have progressively caused only, 186 countries out of 196 to lose their peace. They're all in some kind of war, revolution, conflict, internal struggle, whatever. Okay? So as this second seal progresses and meets its ultimate fulfillment in the second half after the first one, okay, very shortly after the first one, you have war. Oh, World War III. Okay, it's going to be bad. Now, then the third seal was opened in 2015. That was the Shemitah, and that one brought the start. It's a horseman also, so progressive. That one brought the start of economic distress and food shortages, higher prices. Okay. Now, the ultimate fulfillment of that one that comes second half after the second seal is economic collapse and famine, global famine. Do you see how it starts out in 2013, 14, 15 with seals 1, 2, and 3, but they progress and then they reach their ultimate fulfillment in the second half. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So you have a satanically empowered Antichrist, you have world war, and then you have global economic collapse and global famine with the third seal. Then with the fourth seal that opened in 2016, you had pestilence and violence and all kinds, animal attacks, all kinds of weird things that have caused a massive numbers of deaths. These deaths increase and increase and increase until the ultimate fulfillment of the fourth seal is that 1/4 of the planet's people die. 1/4. And then later on, you have a judgment where 1/3, another 1/3 die. Okay. So that's the ultimate conclusion of the fourth seal. You're going to have tons and tons and tons of deaths. It's really going to be bad. The fifth seal was opened in 2017. This seal is an increase in Christian martyrs. And we're going to go through the scriptures here, but I'm giving you kind of an overview here. The fifth seal is a huge increase in Christian martyrs around the world. Okay? And the ultimate fulfillment of that fifth seal is when the Jews in the second half either have to take the mark or die. They'll be slaughtered, beheaded. Okay? And then the sixth seal, hopefully I'm being effective at showing you how they open early and then they progress. And then they have their ultimate fulfillment in the second half. Okay? And they would come quickly in the second half. Boom, 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 boom. And then you have the start of the trumpets. Okay? So we're going to go through these scriptures in Revelation chapter 6, and I'll share with you whatever what I know about these. And I pray that God will teach you himself by his Spirit. In chapter 6, verse 1, and I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals. Now, given what I've just explained to you, I think you'll understand these better as we go through them. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder. One of the four beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse. Here's our Antichrist. And he that sat on him had a bow. We just explained what that meant. He conquers not through military force, but through treachery and deception, peace and diplomacy. And a crown was given unto him. He received one, 3:13:13, when he was elected by conclave. And he went forth conquering and to conquer. Now he is ruling in the second half. So this shows you how it opens early and then he has work to do. And then boom, he's satanically empowered after Satan's cast down. and he is going to rule Jerusalem the second half of the 7 years. In verse 3, and when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. Now, see, the ultimate fulfillment of this is World War III. Okay? In verse 5, and when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. This is economic distress and eventually collapse. And also, this is food shortages, and its ultimate conclusion would be a terrible, terrible global famine. In verse 7, and when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth. The fourth part of the earth. Now, this could be demographic or geographic. Possibly geographic is where you're going to have the bulk of these deaths in the Middle East. Now, power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword and with hunger and with death and with the beasts of the earth. Now, let's talk about that for a minute. Power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth. Now, did you know that the Middle East, Northern and Eastern Africa, and let's see, Eastern Europe and Western Asia, including Russia, is a fourth of the earth? Now, there's going to be a lot of deaths in this particular geographic area. To kill with sword. See, we've got these wars coming up of the Muslims and also Russia, Iran, and Turkey coming down against Israel from the north. And with hunger and with death, see, hunger, there's your famine from seal 3. And with death, the rider is death of this horse. See, the death angel showed up in at Passover, okay, and when Israel was in Egypt, and the firstborn of Egypt died. Well, I think you've got a situation here where death shows up, and you've got the death angel. This is a reaping. And with the beasts of the earth, this is animal attacks and diseases and pestilences. In verse 9, and when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. Now, this is the martyrs that have died since Jesus left, okay? Notice in verse 9, you're seeing souls that are under the altar. These are bodiless souls that are under the altar. And they're martyrs. In verse 10, and they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? They're saying, how long? How long? In verse 11, now this is showing what happens to the martyrs from the time the fifth seal is open and they are they are soulless bodies, or bodiless souls, soulless bodies, bodiless souls under the altar. And then you see in verse 11 what happens when the regeneration of the dead and the evacuation of the living occurs. Because in verse 11, and white robes were given unto every one of them. That is what happens when Jesus comes, after the sixth seal is opened. See, Jesus shows up between seals 6 and 7. So as this shows that before he comes, you have these, as the seal is opened, actually, you have these souls without a body that are martyrs that are under the altar in heaven. Then in verse 11 it says, and white robes were given unto every one of them. That is when the regeneration of the dead occurs, and they are reunited with their bodies here. And because, see, you have to have a body to be able to wear a white robe, don't you? So they were just souls under the altar, but in verse 11, now they have bodies again. So the regeneration has occurred here. But I don't think it occurs before the sixth seal is opened. Okay, I think this just shows a progression once again of what happens to them as the seal is open, and then what happens to them on later on. Because it says here, white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season. That would be the whole second half. Until their fellow servants also, and their brethren that should be killed as they were. The second half is over, and all the Jews who were left here have refused the mark and been slaughtered for their faith. Okay? In verse 12, and I beheld when he opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake. Now, this sixth seal that we're looking at, oh, let me tell you one more thing here before I move on. The fifth seal opened in 2017. Since then, you've had a huge increase in the number of martyrs. But when, as this seal opened and the numbers began to increase of the martyrs, you had a Christian believer, a child of God, being slaughtered every 6 minutes around the clock. And that's before the seal even opened. So then you're going to have a huge increase in Christian martyrs at that point. Now we're at the sixth seal. I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal. This is verse 12 of Revelation chapter 6. And lo, there was a great earthquake. Now this is either a global earthquake or it is a regional earthquake centered in the Middle East. But it is a great earthquake. It's that's what the word is calling it, a great earthquake. And the sun became black as sackcloth of hair. It just turns pitch black. And the moon became as blood. Now there's your blood moon, July 27th, 2018. And that's why we think that's when to expect the sixth seal. Because you've got to have one more blood moon, the seventh blood moon, which comes January 21st, 2019. That one would mark your abomination of desolation. Okay? So this one would be the sixth seal in July coming up. In verse 13, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. Now, this is where Satan and his 1/3 are cast down. Okay? And it says they fell unto the earth. And it's going to be kind of like a meteor shower, is what it seems like. It could be. The stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she's shaken of a mighty wind. And I think what happens is when you shake a fig tree, it's like all of the unripe figs crash to the ground at the same time. So I think it, rather than just being one here and one there and one there and one here, it'll just be whoosh, a whole bunch of them falling at the same time. It's possible. In verse 14, and the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. You've got, as things start crashing down through our atmosphere onto our planet, it's going to mess with the sky. It says the heaven departed as a scroll when it's rolled together. And I think that occurs as Jesus is arriving. It says, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. Is this the quake? Possibly, but this is also the start of the continents moving back together again into one landmass. Okay? And so every mountain and island were moved out of their places. Remember, it says that the sea and the waves were roaring. You've got, when you have a great earthquake, especially what could be a global quake, you're going to have tsunamis all over the place, the sea and the waves roaring. And every mountain and island moved out of their places. That's why I think it's probably global, because every mountain and island being moved out of their places, that sounds pretty global, doesn't it? In verse 15, and the kings of the earth and the great men and the rich men and the chief captains and the mighty men and every bondman and every free man, well, that's everybody, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. Why would they hide themselves in the dens and the rocks of the mountains? I think it's possible you have up to 30,000 projectiles or meteors, asteroids, whatever you want to call them, angels, crash landing to the earth. You don't know where they're going to hit, and it scares everybody out of their wits, and they go underground because they're just hitting everywhere randomly. But it says everyone hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us. Now think about this for a second. You've got this global quake. The last place in the world you want to be in the event of a global quake is underground. So they're not running from the quake or hiding underground trying to get away from the quake. I mean, on the contrary, the last thing you do if you've got a quake is go underground. But something is driving people underground, and I think it has to be verse 13, the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, and it equates the angels with the stars. And we know we've got Satan cast down, and you have 1/3 of the angels that, those are his evil angels, those 6 legions are going to crash land on the planet. And that's what it sounds like, kind of like a meteor shower, they fall. But see, now you've got everybody hiding underground. And that's really interesting, isn't it? Think about what it would cause, what would have to happen to get the whole population to go hiding underground. A meteor shower that was deadly and random, and you didn't know where. I mean, they were landing everywhere, crash landing everywhere. That would probably drive people underground because you don't know where they're going to hit. In verse 16, and said to the mountains and rocks. Now, all of these people that are hiding underground, they're saying to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. Now notice, he's here. You have Satan cast down, and then it looks like you have Satan cast down in verse 13, and then in verse 14, I think this is where Jesus shows up in the sky. The heaven departed as a scroll when it's rolled together. That would give him quite the entrance, wouldn't it? And every mountain and island were moved out of their places. So we've got something going on that is moving things. I don't know if it's a pole shift or if it's the New Jerusalem appearing in orbit. around our planet, but something is messing with our planet here. But they're saying to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. So they're scared out of their wits, and Jesus is here. This is really going to be something, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? That's when the wrath shows up. We're going to take a real quick break. We'll be back right after this.